Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Trader Merlin Show. It is your Tuesday edition. We got a short week out here, and just going to start this week off with some exciting stuff. I got my date wrong on the screen. Let me fix that one for you guys. As you know, I try to bring on guests to give their thoughts, opinions, viewpoints about where these markets may be headed for 2026, and some of them have come on a little bit late here. I still have to get Larry on, although I already have Larry's forecast for Bitcoin and the S&P on our chart, so when he comes on, he's already put his in a couple weeks back. Today we're going to revisit with a friend of mine from many, many years over at Trading Academy. He's now on the East Coast, enjoying retirement. He is one of my favorite Austrian economists. He's an old gold bug who's making, I think an about face here, maybe becoming a little bit of a Bitcoin bug. We're talking about Mr. John O'Donnell with his 2026 market outlook. John, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Merlin. How are you?
Wonderful. The ambassador, I got you up on the screen as the ambassador of opportunity. It's been so long since I've had the chance to call you that.
Well, I still am in search of opportunity. As a matter of fact, I have a little more time to do searching. I've opened every door in this house and turned over every barrel that I can, and I'd like to find some new opportunity. But as you know, I started out being a gold bug in 1972, so I feel like you and I talked about gold and silver favorably back in the power trading radio days, but we certainly had our day in at the circus for the last 24 months, haven't we?
Yeah, well, and you know what? You say circus for the last 24 months. I mean, it's been a circus for years, regardless of who's in power and this political chaos we have going on. And I would argue, at least for me, I felt like trading was a little bit easier back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where right now I find it rather challenging, where one day you have a very positive piece of announcement for, let's say, China, and then the next day, oh, they're our worst enemy, and it creates this whipsaw effect that if we were back on that trading floor where I first met you back in 1998, I'd probably be loving it, but I'm not a high-speed day trader anymore. I'm not doing 550 trades a day like I did back on the floor, and this type of environment to me feels like a day trader's dream.
Well, if you have good day trading skills, you're probably right, because if you look at how the volatility on these assets have been remarkable. We haven't seen this kind of volatility on gold and silver. Silver is just out of sight. I remember when my first silver trade was $2 an ounce, Merlin.
$2 an ounce?
$2 an ounce, and that was at an all-time high in that cycle. And I remember back in those days when silver traded between $2 and $4 range, and that was somewhat of the range. We were talking about the potential of $100 silver one day, and everybody was saying, no, you're crazy. That can never happen. But, here we are. I didn't get the short side of the market like you did, apparently, but on that. But I tell you, much of the silver that I purchased back in the old days, believe it or not, I still have.
Wow. Too bad you don't get the vintage price. I'm bringing up right now for the viewers at home the chart of silver futures going from 1970 into, we'll just say 1979, when it's actually January of 1980 where it surged. And the only reason I bring this up is, if you look back in 1972, you're looking at $1 an ounce for silver. And then it had a pretty big, significant surge in the 1974, went up to about $6, and then went sideways for years, didn't do anything. And then really from 1979, it was down around $6, it shot all the way up to a high price of $41.50 in a year. And the reason I bring that slope up is because when I zoom out and kind of go to where we are today, I see a rather similar type of behavior where you have just an absolute parabolic run, it crescendos and then craters for a period of time. And you're a veteran of the markets and have seen many different cycles like this. Do you think that this bull run for silver is done, since it seems like it's peaked out here at, what was it, 120?
Well, let me answer it this way. Do you think that the dollar is going to continue to retain its value, or are we going to continue to have an accelerated debasement trade? See, I think part of the silver trade, especially the silver trade and gold trade, and probably even Bitcoin, we could throw it into that bucket, is a part of the debasement trend in the U.S. dollar. That eventually it's a confidence play, and people are. There is a legitimate silver shortage this time.
Yeah,
Back in the old days, there weren't any silver shortages. It was mostly manipulation, allegedly by J.P. Morgan, that was a big custodian for the Chicago Merc. And but I think the debasement trade is going to continue until it's finished. Now I don't know how long it's going to take or when it will be finished, but I think we're still in it, and it's taking a breather. The real question is what might silver drop to, and then continue on in its journey, because the silver price and the gold price, I think, is this bull market has been greatly bonused by the dollar debasement trade, and that's across the world.
sure. Well, let's look at. So I've got the dollar up here, and I'm only going back on this chart for the viewers at home to September of 2022 to where we are today. The dollar index, right? So obviously that's 50% of the euro is in that, but there's a couple other currencies as well. That's down 15% since its peak in 2022. Now, for me, you look at a number like down 15% over the past 4 years, that doesn't seem like much at all. However, this is the value of the U.S. dollar. That's a pretty significant decline. And if you look at the chart here, given that we did spike in 2025, it still looks like we're making lower lows and lower highs. So I would tend to agree with you that the trend is your friend till the bend at the end. Not only that, but we have President Trump and Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent both saying we want a weaker dollar. I mean, I think the money does continue to point to a weaker dollar. Plus, we have major debt issues here, so the confidence in the dollar may be dropping as well. So I don't see this trend changing. I see, dollar getting lower and lower and lower, which in your eyes would be a big catalyst for silver and gold to the upside.
Absolutely, and certainly go back and take a look at the old all-time highs and see if we can't continue some of that along. But a lot of that price performance, I think, is already baked into the price of gold. I mean, what do we got it at today? About 4,900.
Yeah, yep, exactly. 48.95. Yep.
And and I don't think the silver shortage is going to get cured just because of a dollar debasement trade. When silver was back at $1 an ounce, dollar and a quarter an ounce, that was because of the Silver Purchase Act. The government at one time had over a 2 billion ounce reserve of silver, because we'd use silver in our coinage.
Right.
And silver does have some strategic industrial applications even through today. And with AI growing the way it's growing, and what's coming in the upgrade to the power grid, silver is going to continue to. The silver shortage isn't going to go away, but we certainly, it got overpriced there at what, 106. That's one of the highest prices I saw.
Yeah, and it just went parallel. And it's interesting that you bring that up. Like we were talking about on this show, and overall, I'm with you. Long term, I'm bullish. But when I see something that goes absolutely parabolic, like silver did, I mean, if you just go from this low point here on November 21st of last year to its peak on January 29th, it was a 144% move to the upside in 45 trading sessions. I mean, that's crazy. That's like, people would say, oh, that's a Bitcoin or a meme stock. Those types of moves are unheard of. And we had massive volume spikes as well, which were leading me to think that this is going to come back down. I struck out one time on this one, but made up for it and then some on the second swing. But these commodities like gold and silver, certainly there is usage, and from an industrial perspective that, as you said, if we're going to keep expanding the grid, we might need more silver. And China has also been on the front page of this one for limiting exports, right? I think Big Ab, the number. I think it was what 70% of all silver is refined in China, not mined, but refined in China. And now China is limiting exports, which is another reason we're seeing the big surge of the upside here, supply and demand.
Yeah, the other thing is, at least 70% of the silver, there aren't many pure silver mines. Most silver is produced as a byproduct of lead, copper, and zinc mining. But those are base metals, and we need them. They're also part of the story. but there aren't many silver refineries left in the United States. You start refining lead, copper, and zinc, you're putting a lot of pollution up in the air, and the EPA's shut down most of those.
Well, that's why we
So
get
no,
70% of it out of China.
yep, exactly. So what do you think on the potential of the debasement trade? I mean, over and above what the charts look like, how much of this is just, central bankers not not trusting Bitcoin enough to make it a gold replacement? And I don't know that the central bankers are putting much silver in reserve.
Right. No, but gold is. I think the big challenge is there's still a belief and a mindset that is anchored in some truth that nothing backs Bitcoin, right? There's that adage that it's not backed by anything. Well, neither is gold. It's not backed by anything. It is the commodity itself, which is kind of what people have labeled Bitcoin as. And I think that mindset still has a ways to go to change. I believe that the Clarity Act, which hopefully we'll see go through office sometime in the next few months, that will make people feel a little bit more confident about digital assets and crypto overall. And as I was mentioning to you before the show, I did not close out my crypto simply because I felt like this 4-year cycle would be different because of Trump and his whole family. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him really light some fire and say, hey, listen, get this thing signed and done so that all of a sudden we get more positivity towards crypto, towards digital assets, and then we get the adoption that I've been saying since 2017.
Yeah, and you were right on that one. And a matter of fact, that's about the time you introduced me to Bitcoin. I think Trump is focused on the upcoming election. He doesn't want to be, for his legacy, a lame duck president. And there are a lot of people pissed off at Trump, right or wrong. It's what it is, what it is. And both outside the United States and within the electorate of the United States. So I think he's going to, and I think the Bitcoiners that I talk to uh, are really down on Trump because he hasn't lived up to what his promises were for the Bitcoin community or the crypto community. He's working on it, but he's still, maybe he promised something he can't deliver on because he has this conflict going on between the, on all the and because of the crypto rules, and the Democrats have seen what his family's done in crypto personally because it's been done in a publicly traded vehicle. What is it, DJT
Yep.
and others, and plus his sons are now involved in Bitcoin mining. And I think there's a lot of people that want to see him fail on that, but the Bitcoiners want him to live up to his promise, which is to create a bountiful strategic reserve of Bitcoin and other cryptos.
Yeah. Okay, so let's discuss that for a second. So for the viewers that may not know what John was talking about, Senator Lummis is actually the brainchild, and I think Hildebrand as well were two that were really pushing for this. And this is bipartisan, so there was also Democrats and Republicans on this one. But the premise was that the Treasury would buy 1 million Bitcoin
Over 5 years.
over a 5-year period. I was going to say a year. No, over a million Bitcoin over a 5-year period of time, and they wouldn't sell it for, I think it was 10 years. So it takes 5 years to accumulate this, but then they wouldn't be able to touch it or do anything with it for at least a decade. From a supply and demand perspective, this would be phenomenal because it creates a giant buyer, right? Even Michael Saylor doesn't have 1 million Bitcoin, which was, I think he's at 720,000 Bitcoin today or something right around there. This would make them one of the largest single holders next to Satoshi Nakamoto of Bitcoin. And when you have that on a balance sheet for a government, talk to me about what you think. Would that be a good thing or a bad thing from a government perspective?
Well, from an Austrian economic perspective, I think it's good. I truly believe that Bitcoin is digital gold. I mean, you're not taking your gold bar or your Krugerrand down to buy a cup of coffee either. I mean, there are physical limitations to the physicality of gold. Uh, I get that it's got some industrial applications that are important, but Bitcoin still has the potential over time to become a base one money, and I think it'd be tremendous. As a matter of fact, we're seeing it. We're seeing multiple governments starting. We're seeing also we're seeing pension funds. CalPERS, the California Pension Fund for State Employees, has now accumulated, I think it's over 2 million shares of MicroStrategy. So we're starting to see, in Ohio's pension fund has jumped on, Georgia's pension fund's got involved, Texas, of course, has been involved with their own form of a strategic reserve. I think institutions, I think 2026 is going to be the year of the institution take some action toward crypto.
Well, let me take a step back here, because all my audience knows I am very bullish on Bitcoin. For crypto overall, if you take statistics, I couldn't be more bearish. I think that 99.999% of all crypto is crap. It's garbage, it's scams, it's fraud. It will be gone. It will serve no purpose. However, if you take 99.999% of 30 million different cryptos, that's going to leave you with over 3,000 projects that are like legitimate big ones. My concern here, you mentioned CalPERS, this is the California Public Employees Retirement System. This is retirement funds. And I apologize for cursing on the show today, but what in the great God green earth is CalPERS doing in MicroStrategy? If I'm a financial advisor and I've got people's retirement on the line and you say put me in MicroStrategy, I'd say you're an idiot, because it is the most volatile thing. It's completely over leveraged. It's a one-of-a-kind product that has never been tested like this before. And as it stands today, it doesn't look like it's really working. Even if you just did straight Bitcoin in someone's retirement account, I think that that's an irresponsible use of money. You should spread that risk around. Go ahead.
It represents, I think, 0.25% of their total portfolio.
That's better.
Okay, first of all, they want beta in their pension plan a little more because they got. But I disagree with you, Merlin. That strategy is over leverage. As a matter of fact, did you get a chance to listen to their annual or their fourth quarter result report?
Nope.
Well, it's printed. I mean, it's in X under the MicroStrategy file, as you can imagine. They're 8% leveraged. Matter of fact, their leverage today is 1/4 of a company of an S&P B corporation.
Sure.
B rating. They're not over leveraged because what they're issuing are preferred shares, and it's preferred equity they're issuing.
Right, but
they're not issuing that much common equity anymore. It's primarily preferred equity that isn't callable.
Preferred equity and preferred shares both have a guaranteed rate of return. So as long as Bitcoin continues to move up, that guaranteed rate of return is easy to achieve. We're looking at Bitcoin down 50% off its all-time high, and based off technicals, still has a long way to go down. So at a certain point, yeah, it's not heavily leveraged, but it's got all of its eggs. And I mean every one of its eggs in one basket. You have 5 financial products that are interest-bearing. And yes, they've got a couple $1 billion in cash reserves, but you're dealing with something that once it goes past a certain point, Michael Saylor's on CNBC trying to calm everybody down going, oh, well, if Bitcoin gets down to $10,000, well, we'll just refinance the debt. Who the hell's going to refinance that much debt knowing that the assets you have dropped 90%? I mean, good luck finding...
First of all, Mark, let me ask you a question. What do you think is the probability that Bitcoin would go to 10,000?
I don't think it'll happen. Oh, nothing's...
No, I don't either.
Nothing's impossible.
I think it's 1 in 100 probability that it would go to 10,000. Is it possible? Of course it's possible. It's had a couple of 80% downdrafts that did recover after each peak of selling back to an all-time new high for a cycle. But the probability, it ain't going to 10,000. Hell, all the ETFs will pick it up at 50. They'll be all over it at 50,000.
Yeah, well, there are definitely factors out there that could certainly cause it to get to 10,000, right? Obviously, if the encryption is SHA-256 gets cracked, Bitcoin's at 0 the next day, right? So that's one. The other piece.
By the way, so's your bank account.
Not with SHA 256. My bank account has nothing to do with SHA 256.
Well,
SHA 256 is the encryption.
if quantum computing comes through, they're taking everything with any kind of a password protected. I
Sure.
mean, we got bigger problems. If quantum computing gets through, and it might, I don't think it will in my lifetime, and it might in your lifetime. But if it gets through, we got bigger problems than Bitcoin going to 10,000.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the one that always gets me, John, is when people go, "Oh, well, if there's an EMP in America, it destroys your Bitcoin." It's like, my Bitcoin's on the blockchain. There's a computer running somewhere. It'll be fine. But yeah, I don't see it getting down to 10,000. I mean, I see Wolf here saying it could get down to 30. So yeah, I mean, the targeting, if you do the typical 70% decline in the 4-year cycle, that brings us to about 37,000. Although, again, I think this time's different. My concern, John, going back to the original piece, would be if the government, this allows for way much financial warfare between China, between Russia, between the United States, because if it ends up that Bitcoin is a million Bitcoin on the U.S. government's balance sheet, China could now manipulate that market, right? You could easily go out there and throw $10 billion on 100 to 1 leveraged shorts on DeFi marketplaces and crater the price of Bitcoin and manipulate the price. It makes me a little bit nervous, even though I want it to happen, right? I want the government to do this. It makes me nervous as a citizen because the ability for them to manipulate the price of Bitcoin, now that one government, could be US, could be China, whatever, one government has so much of it, I think you start to get into, it's economic warfare using digital assets. And that would kind of concern me.
Well, if our government had a million Bitcoin, it wouldn't even come close to representing the value of its gold that it holds. I mean, what you might want to think about is, what if the government and Trump and all of his wisdom puts forward a program where we're going to sell gold and use some of the proceeds to buy Bitcoin and accumulate a 1 million Bitcoin position.
Yeah.
That's still a small amount of assets, the total balance sheet of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, and we still got a Federal Reserve that can print money,
that never stopped. That will always be there.
So I think we ought to be long, wood chips or something, or
wood chips. Wood chips. Okay. John, he went from silver to gold to Bitcoin, and now he's the wood chip bear, wood chip bug.
Well, I want to make some paper. It might be a battle between who can print the most fiat money.
John, let me ask you this one. Central bank digital currencies. From my perspective, I almost see them as a foregone conclusion just based off of evolutions of society and technology. Are you in that same boat? And what would be, your timeline for us to have a fully implemented CBDC, if you believe we're going to get one?
Fully implemented?
Fully implemented.
Maybe by the end of the decade.
Okay.
I think it's possible, and I think it could happen within 5 years.
Well, I think you're right. And my timeline would be, I think you're right. I think by 2030 we have a CBDC. It's in society. We can now use this CBDC. And then I guess for me the bigger question is, at what point does paper money and metal money disappear and we go 100% digital? And I think we're probably a few years past that.
Well, this is where my first of all, that assumes that paper money is going to go away.
Yes.
I don't think paper money is going to go away. If you look at the history of currencies and the beauty of the Austrian School of Economics, they spend a lot of time teaching the history of money. Mises was a genius in describing the history of money. We've always had multiple mediums of exchange that have different functionality for different groups. And it's not like that silver coins didn't go away. We still have silver coins. They went out of use because of Gresham's law. Bad money drives out of circulation good money.
Right. So and then how does Gresham's law apply to this digital one? Because eventually it's going to push it out.
Well, it'll drive it out of circulation. It doesn't mean it goes out of business.
Right.
There will always be South American countries, certain countries within Africa that will be using fiat currencies. Which one? They use multiple currencies now. We have the euro, we have the pound sterling, we have the yen. It's not like they're going away completely. They will have, they're going to be used to black markets.
Sure, that's what I was thinking, black market. But general acceptance will the government will probably say no, you got to use digital.
Yeah, yeah, you have to use digital, or we're going to give you such an incentive to use digital. But they're going to be taken away. You're going to be able to do small purchases with digital instruments pretty soon, and just like $600 level or something like that will
Yeah.
be tax exempt. But look, there's still going to be black markets.
Yep.
Um, I met back a long time ago in the '70s. I had lunch with Dr. Franz Pick. Look him up on Google. Dr. Franz Pick. He ran a service called Pick's World Currency Analyst, and he was in his 70s when I met him. He was during World War II. He would sneak blocked currencies out of Nazi administered countries. Most of his clientele were Jewish. He was Jewish himself. He's a great guy, smart guy.
It kind of
And
looks like he could be a vampire.
he told me, we ought to read his bio, though. Read his bio. It's a fabulous bio. He told me, he said, John, asked him about when the black market's going to go away. He said, we'll always have black markets. He said, if we didn't have black markets, the world would have a depression. He said, and he was right. The black markets haven't gone away. I mean,
Yeah.
that was talking to him 50 years ago. They haven't diminished, nor will they. As long as America wants cocaine and heroin and fentanyl, laced drugs are going to be around. I mean, if there was no demand, they wouldn't be produced. But they're not going to be using. They're not going to be using Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They're not. Yeah,
I get you. I get you. Well, I mean, there's certainly different careers. It's just curious because I see society heading that way. I see technology pushing us towards more digital. Kind of like I always use music as the example. Is vinyl dead? No, they're actually vinyl is still around, but most everybody's streaming, whether it's radio or using MP3s or digital music or streaming through like Spotify. But yeah, there is a small group of us. I still collect vinyl. I sell a record player, and I still
And by the way, with all the technology in music, did live music go away?
It should, the way that Ticketmaster is screwing everybody over for tickets.
Well, but that's another story. That's a different. That's a different black market.
That is blackmail, man. Those people, it's ridiculous what those people do. Anyway.
And by the way, come to the South. I'll take you to a hillbilly music festival. They love that stuff.
John, I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can see, John. I have all my teeth. I am not allowed.
Well, it
it
reminds me. I went to Canada one time. I was in Montreal to someplace. I was standing at a bar having a drink. And a lady came up to me and says, "Excuse me, young man." She says, "You're not a hockey player, are you?" And I says, "Well, no, I'm not. How can you tell?" She said, "If you were a hockey player, I would have given you my favorite pickup line." I said, "Well, what's that?" She says, "Nice tooth."
I'd be more than happy to come down there. I love bluegrass. I love country. Not country. Country, no.
I'm taking down some good old redneck music, Merlin. We'll have some good time. Eat some barbecue, take our shoes off, listen to some real country and some blues. I mean real blues.
Barb told me about those bunions, John. I don't want to see you with your shoes off. All right, let's go back to markets. So I want you to give me a forecast of what you think Bitcoin's going to be by the end of the year, and also what you think the S&P. Actually, wait. Before I get there, you got a couple minutes. What do you look at for 2026 as being the biggest challenge for our markets? I'm looking for your biggest headwind potential and tailwind potential that you see.
The biggest for markets, which ones?
Pick one. I mean, obviously, there's going to be something that is going to be, significant.
Well, I think the biggest thing I'm watching carefully, I'm looking for signals that the debasement trade, as we've experienced here the last 24 months, which does not favor the U.S. dollar, is pretty much going to continue, or it's not. I mean, I don't know. Or how far active will this debasement trade get? I mean, I guess we could end up could it be a catalyst of a trade war? Could the the trade war continue to get worse, or we're going to have a world war? I don't know.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Of course not. Hopefully not. But I don't know. I mean, this is the closest it's been in my life. Of course, I was born after World War II. I somehow got through the Vietnam War okay, but I don't know what is going to happen. But I'll tell you what my number, what I'm looking for is what's going to happen with this dollar debasement trade.
Okay.
If it's going to continue, I continue to be bullish on gold and silver, of course, and Bitcoin.
Okay.
I think going Bitcoin's gotten quite political.
Yep.
I think the battle on Bitcoin's now going to be between the House and the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm cautiously optimistic. I keep hearing we're going to get this Bitcoin legislation approved, and I hope that's true.
It's kind of interesting. You know what the big holdup is, right?
No.
So one of the big pieces that's holding this up is they want to remove the feature that allows stablecoins to pay out the interest. So right now, USDC, so USDC.
So the banks are being greedy again, huh? Surprise, surprise.
Well, the banks know that if all of a sudden stablecoins are going to pay consumers 3.5% or 4%, then they have to come up from 0.01%. It's going to totally cut into their profits, of course.
Of course. So now we're back. So that's a huge lobby, as you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean that lobby buys about everything they get. Plus they have Elizabeth Warren on their side.
Oh well, crypto is crypto's the most evil thing in the world according to her mind. I love how she's so one-dimensional, and I'm sure she's a very intelligent woman. But man, when she talks about crypto, I just cringe because sometimes I'm like, you're saying some of the dumbest things possible to right now. Like this does not make sense what you're saying, but whatever. It's like what is his name? The CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, right? He was at Davos, and he goes, all you have to do is turn off Bitcoin. And I just held my head in my hands. I'm like, you just lost all credibility. You can't turn it off. It's not like a switch. You just go, well, that's enough Bitcoin. Let's just turn the power off. I mean, sometimes these politicians and executives, they're worth billions and billions of dollars, but they don't know everything. And when they get talking about crypto assets, quite often they don't know squat. I would look at.
Well, I think even though they haven't been as vocal as he has, I think the whole banking lobby is not pro Bitcoin. I mean, where have you seen any pro banking lobby come out?
You've read the white paper, right, John? I mean, the white paper literally says that we can be our own bank. With Bitcoin, we don't need a bank. So yeah, I'd be lobbying against it too.
Now, I'll tell you why I'm hedging a bit on what my price forecast is.
Okay.
What is our new Fed chairman going to do, Mr. Warsh? What's he going to do? Is he going to lower rates? Is he going to allow them to be lowered? Is he going to be really pro crypto? I mean, like we've been led to believe that he is.
I mean, you think, and again, I think Trump is going to be very cautious about who he puts in that position. He wants someone who's going to cut rates and be pro-crypto. He's pretty much done, anybody in his cabinet is now pro-crypto. I would imagine that Warsh is in that same camp. I've not done the research on Warsh, so I claim ignorance there.
Well, I think Warsh is in that camp, and I think he's been quite vocal about it in the past. Before he got Trump's blessing, he been quite vocal about it.
Good. Bring it on.
But is he going to follow through? I mean, it's one thing to remember. He's got to be confirmed by the Senate. Are they going to put him in? There is some check and balance on him getting in there.
John, I use Kalshi. It's this betting app. Sorry, it's predictive markets, right? It's basically just gambling. And I had Bill Addis on the program, and I said, Bill, who do you think is going to be nominated for the Fed chair? And he said Kevin Warsh would be number one. So I put a $50 bet on Kevin Warsh and a $10 bet on Scott Bessent, and we won. But the bet has not paid out yet because it has to be, Trump has to officially make the nomination presentation in front of the Senate. And I just didn't want to take that bet because, Trump can backpedal immediately. So I took 99% of my winnings, left $5 on the table on that bet, but it was a good one.
Oh, you're smart, Merlin. That's why you're in the position you're in.
I am. All right, give me your S&P forecast or Bitcoin, whichever one you want, and we'll get you on the list here.
Let me give you Bitcoin. I think S&P is going back over 7,000. I mean, but I would guess that Bitcoin. I'm gonna say 140 Bitcoin.
Okay.
Uh,
So I
140 bit.
give me some change because I got 140. Two people already got 140.
143.50.
There you go, 143.50. Okay, interesting. Okay, so you're looking at a pretty bullish year.
Oh, I think if some of these things roll off, remember it's an election year.
Yeah.
Lot of crazy stuff can happen. Trump can do some really crazy. Remember the rule of the politician; they will do anything to stay in office one more term.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
get
mean,
you. All right. So you said S&P above 7,000. You got a more precise number I can put you on the list?
7,227.
Boom. Done. All right. Insert row 7,227. That would be an increase for the year of 5.58%. And John Rowland is just slightly ahead of you on that one. But
Oh, he's a smart guy. Maybe I got lucky.
you're 23 points away from his score. He said 5.92%. So, all right, John. Well, hey, I appreciate.
When you going to give us When you going to give us yours?
Oh, I gave mine, and it's funny because I want to adjust mine, but I already did it. Let's see. I can go here. Where is mine? I have the S&P down in the year 7.16%. So 63.55 would be my closing price for the SPX, and then I had Bitcoin. I was feeling a bit optimistic. I have 130, and that would be an increase of 48% this year. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't believe we're going to get as big of a decline as the 4-year cycle historically does. But to be totally honest, I've been wrong so far. I should have listened to myself when I said sell in September and early October, and I could have sidestepped all this. So there we go.
So, in saying that, you must believe the 4-year cycle's not over.
I think that the 4-year cycle is different this time. For whatever reason, that first year of it, and I don't have any real logical arguments as to why the first year it falls 70%. Because the last couple times it's been because of boom bust cycles. One was for NFTs and the other one was for the Terra Luna collapse. So it's not like it's a normal predictive thing. It's just kind of all over the place. I just thought with all the political, remember for the last 4 years or 3, this last year excluded, we had nothing but political headwinds for crypto and digital assets. It was across the board. You had Gary Gensler, you had Biden, you had Warren, you had all these people really pushing against it. And then a new regime comes in, and all of a sudden, you have nothing but tailwinds. And to me, I look at those tailwinds as being the disruptor for this cycle. But apparently, I was wrong. I mean, we're not there yet, but I think Trump's going to do something dramatic in the next couple of months to just cause crypto to just go insanely bullish to the upside.
Why didn't crypto go to 10,000 when Gary Gensler was there?
Well,
I think the probability of the people out there talking about 10,000 crypto, I think is absolutely ridiculous. Given what we're in our 16th year now.
Yeah,
I don't see it. I mean, sure, is it possible? But is it probable?
Right. So I'll put a monthly up here for the viewers at home so we can look at the monthly cycle of Bitcoin. And this is logarithmic. Sorry, I'm zooming all over the place. This is your logarithmic picture I've got going on since inception of Bitcoin. Well, since it started recording here on this price chart, which is 2009, but it started a little bit earlier than this. You do see, it looks like the rate of ascent has slowed down, but to get to 10,000, I mean, you have to come all the way back down to these lows, logarithmically adjusted back to 2022. And I don't know. I don't see it happening. I see this bouncing and making new highs. But, who knows?
I think that's a 1% probability that everybody's freaking out on. And I think by the time quantum gets here, the Bitcoin industry will have developed some kind of hedge, some kind of protection. I don't know what it'll be. It's beyond.
I think they'll be fine. I'm not worried about the quantum aspect of it. What I think is going to happen, and this is my long-term hypothesis, is once the Clarity Act gets approved, there will be some instruments in the crypto space which are popular, which will be declared as securities. That will cause them to not be listed on crypto exchanges and could cause money to immediately pull out of those as quickly as possible. So if you're already in a crypto that's now designated a security, according to the regulators and the SEC, you're going to take your money out and you're going to put it where? back into the ones that are already above board. And we already know that Bitcoin and most likely Ethereum are going to be labeled as commodities. I see a lot of that flowing back into Bitcoin. So I do think that once the Clarity Act is solidified and really specific on what's a security, what's not, money will flow out of specific garbage cryptos and move into the more sustainable large cap stuff that is actually building and doing something. Your Solanas, your Cardanos, Avalanches, Hyperledger, things like that. But who knows? It's just my hypothesis.
I'll tell you something else to keep your eye on. Keep your eye on whether some hedge fund pops up and starts wanting to sell these preferred offerings, short sell these preferred offerings of strategy. So far, there really hasn't been any short selling to speak of at all. They're market makers and they're prime brokerage firms that make a market in the preferred securities, but and they've had their own little bit of volatility, but that money's been, that security's been engineered to take volatility out. It's still trading at par. Even today, I believe it closed at par.
Well, it depends on which ones you're talking about. If you look at like
I'm talking about Stretch, the one that's getting all the action.
Yeah, the old Stretch, STRC, right? That the one?
Yes, STRC. Keep an eye on that and see if any people want to show up and start shorting those. Well, it's basically Stretch.
Yeah, it's had some decent moves to the downside. It's had some decent moves, but yeah, you're right. Right now it's at 99, so it's pretty close to parity, or not to par parity, but to par. Yeah. Well, we shall see. As long as you keep paying that dividend, it'll be fine. Everyone's gonna be happy with that. You gotta love that dividend.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that's why it's getting a lot of action. It trades. It trades like 1,000% of what any other preferred trades at. It has super liquidity. It's got outstanding liquidity. Preferred market's small market.
True. It doesn't have outstanding liquidity. It trades, let's say maybe 800,000 a day. But you're right. Preferred shares usually are very low liquidity. Yeah.
And I don't think any other preferred is even close to it.
Yeah.
In volume. So it's seeing it's building an aftermarket. It's brand new. It's not.
I get you. And this is a caveat emptor thing. There's many people, including some of my regulars. Mickey Bobby, he's a big fan of MicroStrategy. I get it. That's fine. And if you're like myself and you're just nervous about it, then just leave it alone. But it's so tempting. And I guess what bothers me, John, is when you have darn well that the average market return for the S&P since the 1950s is between 8 and 10%, call it 9. And here you have something that's guaranteeing you 8, 9, 10%, depending on which one you're in, right? Those are that's okay, but it just, when it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And I do own. Oh, I gotta figure out which one. I bought some in another account just to see how it would perform, and it's grossly underperforming, by the way. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I bought just a few grand of it.
I think it's yielding like 11.5%.
Yeah. Yep.
He raised the yield on it. They just engineer it the way they want. And that's their primary conduit. They're not selling that much common stock anymore. They're selling more
preferred. Yep.
Preferred than anything.
Yeah. And my only concern there is when you're selling preferred, you do lock yourself into a fixed rate of return. As long as you can keep that obligation going and pay that rate of return, then you should be fine and remain solvent. But if things drop so much, that could put a stress on that model. It's definitely something we haven't seen before.
If you go back and do this, if you want to understand what they're thinking about how they're going to pay that if Bitcoin drops a lot, they got a lot of color in their fourth quarter report. If you go, it's still posted. You can watch it on their website under investor relations category too.
Hey John, before you even go there, the fourth quarter report for Bernie Ebbers of WorldCom said rosy things too. Okay, a report is a report. You can make it sound whatever you want. I can write a report on a steaming pile of dog do and make it sound like a plate of diamonds. So I don't trust reports. I don't trust earnings. But it's okay. And that's why this trading works. It's because you'll have people like me who look at this very skeptically and say, it's just not for me. And you'll have other people that are going to go, hey, you're missing out, Merlin. Get on this. And that's fine. I'll do other things.
Well, the nice thing about working at Online Trading Academy, it taught me the importance of position sizing.
Right. Yep.
It's one thing to take on risk. It's another thing to be crazy about the risk you're willing to take on. Just position size appropriately for what you need, what your needs are. I agree with you. Retired people don't need to be heavily levered up in Bitcoin. I mean, it dropped 50% last year.
Mickey, I love this. Mickey makes a good comment because you can't worry about what if. You will never do anything. I'll just tell you guys a funny little one today. So I went to my therapist this afternoon, and she started talking to me, and she's like, you're always focusing on the red flags and the negative things. You have to focus on the positive and the green things. And I'm like, listen, if you look at what has kept me a successful trader for many, many years, it's because I don't care about the green things. I don't care about the positive things. I have to focus on the negative. I have to focus risk. I would argue that trading is not at all about making money or wealth accumulation. It's all about managing your downside risk and putting yourself in trades that have very low risk or at least they have a high probability of winning. So, I have so many internal concerns about MicroStrategy. I just leave it alone. It's easier that way.
There you go.
We shall see.
You don't have many sleepless nights over it like I did.
I did like a couple weeks ago, man. I got out. I took a stinger on old MicroStrategy. That one, it hurt, but it is what it is, and it's fine. I'll move on. Pros, I can help with that. All right, hey John. I want to thank you for coming on. I'm bummed we only get you on like once a year. Maybe we'll try to get you on once a quarter or something. It's always a pleasure talking to you and hypothesizing about where these markets may go. And if I do get out to the East Coast, I'm going to try to do some, we're doing a physical cryptocurrency program now that's just about to be rolled out. So I will be going to all the different centers, and who knows, maybe I'll get out to the East Coast and come by and see you.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John, well, thank you very much. Say hi to the little lady for me, and I look forward to talking to you again soon, my friend.
Okay. Good luck to you in these upcoming markets.
You too. All right, go Bitcoin. All right. Guys, that was John O'Donnell. I call him the ambassador of opportunity. Known the guy forever. He's actually the guy that signed me up, took my credit card out of my hand and signed me up for a class at Trading Academy back in 1998. Wild. John doesn't teach, he's just he's retired, enjoying the life out on the East Coast. Enjoying it, just trades and retires. All right, how much time we got left? 11 minutes. Let me run through these markets real quick, and we'll just go from there. Not a lot of really great action other than the meltdown, not meltdown, but the big move down of 2.2+% for gold today. But technically, I was just looking for something. I didn't find anything that I thought was really that great. There was really nothing from a technical perspective today that made me go, ooh, I'm looking for a setup here. And nothing really. There was a nice hammer formation on Tesla at the end of the day, but other than that, I didn't see anything that looks good. And I'm long Tesla, so I guess that makes it nice. Gold down 2.78%, but on this daily chart, is there anything really to speak of here? No. Judging by what it did today, my guess is you'll probably see it traverse down just a little bit more and then just start to consolidate, and that looks like what this pattern is going to end up doing. Bitcoin is down 1.4%. We had a nice weekend for Bitcoin. It was looking pretty good. We're up over 70 and then all of a sudden came back down. I still am not very positive on it. This chart doesn't look that great, and I wish I could be. I wish I could see something on this chart that made me go, okay, here we go for Bitcoin. And if I saw that happen, this will be music to Mickey's ears. If I saw that happen and saw Bitcoin find a footing, start to make some new highs, and really start to trend, then I probably would go back to doing the wheel strategy on MicroStrategy or load the boat on MicroStrategy, because that being a leveraged instrument, typically with regards to the Bitcoin rate of return, will probably yield better rates of return. But it is a risky asset for me, and I'll most likely just trade IBIT and do the wheel strategy there. Now, that's Bitcoin. Technically looking pretty weak. Again, I'm looking for a close below that 65 mark, but we have this long bottoming tail from February 6th that brought it all the way down to 60,000. So a close below 60, no bueno. No bueno at all. Crude oil. Okay, we had crude oil over the past couple days showing some pretty significant weakness, but I still think you're on a shorter term uptrend here. What we saw from middle of December is prices going higher and higher and higher. Yes, we have a pullback for the past few days, but I think all in all, crude oil will probably move to the upside. There's still a lot of people that are expecting more raised conflict in the Middle East, and I am in that camp. NASDAQ 100, not much here. We still are, well off that double top high. Looking for those low points we saw back in November, right around 23,900, but we're still way above that, right? We are still 800 points above that level, so I don't expect anything real dramatic here from the NASDAQ, just bouncing in between those long two polar opposite ranges there. Russell 2000, same thing, it looks similar to gold, right? You had the big parabolic move, sold off, didn't make a new high, didn't make a new low, so it feels like we're just consolidating, maybe forming a pennant formation here, which I could draw it on there if you would like, but I think you guys can see the beginning of a pennant formation looking like that. It all depends on where you want to draw them. If you go through the tails, then there's your pennant formation, and we'll see how that, I'll leave right there to see how that one pans out. Based off this, statistically, it should break to the upside and move higher because that's the prevailing trend for the Russell 2000. Dollar index we already looked at. John is in the camp of seeing more debasement, meaning the dollar get weaker. Yeah, I kind of in that camp too. I mean, when your politicians and your president are saying we want a weaker dollar, I'm pretty much in that, oh, darn, I just moved the whole dang zone. Let me get this back to the zone where it should be, which is all the way back here to the 2021 lows. Let's see if I can get that. It's somewhere right around there. Okay. Perfect. So I'm going to get that level back in place. From current levels, that'd be a decline in the U.S. dollar of about 3.59% to get down to that level, which would be at 93. No bueno either. It would probably be good for the equity markets. It'd probably be good for commodities as well. So if we do see that drop continue, expect gold and silver to have some more upside, although they've had significant pullbacks. Number 2 on the day was the S&P 500. Here is your daily of the S&P. I don't see anything here really noteworthy. The only piece that I, from a casual observation, is I'm looking at this and I'm looking at sideways price action, right? It has not done much. I think you guys can all pretty clearly see that. I'll just draw on the yellow box here. Since November 25th, we've been stuck in this fairly tight range for the S&P. Now, you got a couple choices. You could do a spread trade and trade the middle of it, which seems like what might be a logical trade for now. But we keep kind of getting closer to the bottom of this. And if it does base, as Rob puts in there, he says sideways range and basing below. Yes. If we get below 67.71, which is a number I've been saying here for a couple weeks now, then I think you're probably going to drop fairly quickly down to this next low, which is down around 65.56. So about a 200-point drop if we get a close below 67.71. So not saying it's going to happen, just says if we close below this, then it's an if-then statement, right? If it breaks down here, I'm looking to go short. If it breaks the high point of this, which is 7,036, I'm looking to go for the long side here. But right now, it's kind of a hesitation. We're just watching it kind of consolidate. And lastly, you had your 10-year yield, which is just really sold off aggressively. I mean, we were up over 4.3% yield for the 10-year, and now we're at 4.06. It was up slightly today, but boy, those last couple of days have been aggressive sell-offs there. The big question here for me is, well, where's this thing going? Right? From this picture here, it just looks like consolidation, more just kind of maybe going flat. If we zoom in a little bit and go back to the lows that started in October, feels like we're starting to make a little bit of an uptrend, but the last 2 weeks have just erased that. So heck if I know. Who knows where this 10-year yield's going to go. My gut was telling me that it was probably going to go higher because we broke the downtrend and we had a head and shoulders pattern. Also, Bill Addis was very bullish on the yield as well. So there we go. All right, that's going to do it for me for today. That was your John O'Donnell special. Haven't had him on in so long. It's good to have him on, give some insights into what he saw as major forces. We went a little bit long in the tooth maybe on crypto and digital assets, but I know John is pretty a big fan of Bitcoin, and not necessarily all crypto. I think he's into Ethereum and a couple others, but definitely Bitcoin. He's been orange-pilled. The debasement trade, though, will definitely be something we keep our eye on. I'm always looking at the dollar as well to see what the trend is, but it seemed to be that that was his biggest concern for the year, was the debasement trade and how low does that dollar go? If it does, what are the impacts there for our broader market? So that's my show for today. If you guys have something you want me to discuss on tomorrow's show, it's already Wednesday. Send in your topic requests to tradermerlin@gmail.com. You can send in whatever you want, questions or just things you want me to discuss. I have a couple questions I need to get into from over the weekend. That said, hope you guys have a fantastic remainder of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care.